Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto. Hope you're all doing great and welcome to this middle of the day market update. We're going to do a full update on the markets. We'll talk about the fundamentals, as most of you know. We'll talk about Bitcoin, we'll talk about Ethereum, we'll talk about XRP, and we'll talk about some altcoins. There's a couple of altcoins that I think you should be interested in and you should have on your watch list. Outside of that, right now in the Telegram group and the Discord group, the free ones, which we have, I also post 3 altcoins every day with momentum. And we've had some massive ralliers in there as well. So if you're interested in that, then check that out. And consider joining. And a little bit later today, I will upload a new trading education video. So check that out as well if you're interested in that. I think it's quite valuable. But for now, let's get right into it. So first of all, today we had some major news. We had the unemployment rate coming out, which was lower than expected, which is, well, the market at this point of time seems to be picking that up as bullish. Unemployment rate is always a little bit tricky, right? Because what happens is that both lower than expected and higher than expected unemployment rates can cause a bullish and a bearish reaction. Because what you basically want is you want a sweet spot for employment data to be that, you know, it does encourage the Federal Reserve to cut the interest rates, which is good for the markets. But you also don't want a recession, right? So you want the unemployment rate to be high, to increase, but not too much that it gets into a recession. Now, so far, like I said, it can fall both ways. So far, if you take a look at the fundamentals in the market right now, it seems to be that the fundamentals say, or at least that the market thinks, this is good news. The S&P 500 has rallied to new all-time highs, which is great. The volatility index is down, which is great as well. That means less uncertainty. Gold is also falling right here. So the fundamentals around the markets are great. Now, Bitcoin specifically is also still bullish. I mean, if you take a look at this chart, you can see it more specifically. What I said this morning is that as long as 108,000 holds, Bitcoin is bullish and the markets will most likely remain bullish as well. And it's holding that level. It's even holding this first support level a little bit lower, around 108,800. So that's all great news. Now, I must say that, you know, tomorrow it's Independence Day, so the markets are closed, so volume and liquidity will be a little bit lower. And outside of that, you know, Bitcoin is at a bit of a tricky spot right here, because we are at a major resistance level right here at 110 and 112,000, the previous all-time high. And short term, I have to be bullish on Bitcoin, right? Because the technicals are bullish, the fundamentals are bullish. However, if I have to give you my thoughts on, I think we're going to break out, right? So really break out above this entire level, I would say no. I think it's more likely here on the higher time frames for Bitcoin that we are going to rally up higher, and that we might even make new all-time highs, but that we will eventually spike, consolidate, and drop all the way back down into 105 and 102,000 at least. And maybe if we get some bad news there, we might even drop down lower. So these are my thoughts on Bitcoin, and that has effects on the entire market as well, of course. Because the Bitcoin dominance, yes, it has dropped down a little bit, but not that much that I would say that if Bitcoin does something like this, that it's not going to affect altcoins. It will. So you know, be aware of that. Be careful for it. And I will keep you updated on that, because the only way I think we can actually have a breakout and rally into like 120,000 is if we get some very positive news or some very or some sustaining bullish fundamentals, which I'm not certain if we are going to be able to do that. But all right, so now let's talk about some other major altcoins. First of all, XRP, just moving as expected. It's relatively stable, still has momentum. So even though I think you should be ready for a pullback, I do think it's most likely still that XRP is going to break out and rally into 2.41 and 2.45. Ethereum looks very similar to Bitcoin. I think we can rally higher. I think we can move temporarily above that level here at the yearly rolling VWAP. But I also think that we will reject and drop back down to the bottom of the range eventually. So my thoughts on Bitcoin and Ethereum are very similar, although Bitcoin is a little bit further up comparatively than Ethereum, which is obviously a bad sign. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on the fundamentals and some majors. Now let's talk about some altcoins, which is obviously very, very interesting. First coin I think you need to be aware of is Nero. Nero had a very, very high volume breakout here above that level around 0.0042. I think this is a real breakout. All right, so I think we can at least consolidate up here, which is already better price action than what we had during June. But volume like this, you don't want to ignore that, right? We have some imbalances to the downside now, so be aware of that. Expect those to be filled. But Nero, definitely a coin you should keep your eyes on. Pengu still has a huge amount of volume, so this is also a coin I think you should be, you should have on your watch list. Personally, I think this is quite tricky to trade, so I don't have any thoughts on that. Be careful, I would say, right? Because at this point in time, it has a lot of momentum. So I would say, going up higher seems most likely, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should buy it or that you should trade it a lot. And then outside of that, I mean, do I see something else that I think you need to be aware of, or I think you need to pay a lot of attention to? Yeah, I mean, one coin that has kept a lot of momentum is SEI, all right? So SEI. Technically, I'd say that it's quite likely that we will still have a bigger pullback right here, but it could be one of the most interesting coins to buy if we actually do have a pullback. I mean, you rarely see momentum that sticks like it has been sticking for SEI. So those are 3 altcoins I think you need to keep your eyes on, but that's what I think you need to know for now. So thank you for watching. I'll see you on my next videos, and bye.